Within a 9-month period of hit mom's basement, 9 months later, I had become a millionaire at 24 years old. I have $2.4 million on Instagram right now. I also helped guys talk to girls. I would say just do 30 all selfie style yourself. Get the feel for it and get the heebie-jeebies out of the way.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where we have conversations with people who are doing at least $1 million in the business, many times a lot more. So I've got a special guest with me today. His name is Jason Capital, and he is an absolute rock star, especially when it comes to marketing and building a powerful brand on social media. And he's especially crushing it on Instagram lately. Jason Capital, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ken. Glad to be here. And I'm assuming that everyone's going to enjoy this podcast as well. That's my assumption.
Perfect, Jason. When we first met, this was right before the pandemic hit. I believe it was my very last international trip I made outside of Japan. And I think we were chatting. We ended up sitting right next to each other at one of the breaks. And, there's a lot of cool stuff. We're talking about content and stuff. And since then, I've been following you. And I see you have this personality that attracts a lot of dudes. They just love watching your stuff. And I think a lot of them end up buying what you're selling, right? Could you explain for the listener, what is it you actually do? What is your business?
Sure. So just to break it up into two timelines, currently what I'm doing is I work with course sellers and help them sell a lot more courses through content and through different channels and things like that. Previously, though, the last 4 years, what I did is I helped people replace rat race life with laptop life. So people who are stuck at a job they don't like, have a calendar crammed with crap they're not looking forward to, that type of thing, and helping them earn an extra 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 grand a month online so that they could either supplement their current income or replace their entire job income and just go full-time online. And so that was the model. That's what I did. We helped in those 4 years, we created 17 millionaire students. So 17 guys have 7-figure businesses now as a result. Over 300 people started earning a full-time income from home or more using the system. And all of them were attracted to me using content.
Wow. I've got a feeling that some people listening to this are going to be like, I've got to figure out where to take this course and get those kind of results. So I just want to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the description. If you're on podcast, check out the show notes. And we'll be sure to have some links in there so you can figure out how to get in touch with Jason, if that's okay with you, Jason. Now, what you're explaining right now, Jason, sounds fantastic. And I think if I had someone like you to be frank, before I started my business, I could probably have shortcutted getting to $1 million a year a lot faster. But I'd like for you to take us back, like before, because I feel like what you're describing to a lot of people feels amazing, but also at the same time, if they don't have a business, if it's not converting well, and if they're not really crushing on social media like you are, take us back to before you started making money so that people can follow you on that journey. What were you doing?
Great question. I was a student in college. I started my first online business from my dorm room at Michigan State University when I was 20 and failed the first 4 or 5 months. I had a website, made no sales, was ready to give up. Before that, I was a college basketball player at a small Division II school called Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. I quit basketball, burned out, went back to Michigan State to be a normal college kid, and did not look forward to a normal 9-to-5 life. And I was like, I have to find a way out off this hamster wheel before I get trapped. I see so many people, and the internet seemed like the way out. And so my thought was I'm going to create a course teaching basketball players how to get recruited to play college basketball like I did, because that's what I knew. And so I make the course, put up the website. Again, no one buys, I'm ready to give up. And there was this seminar going on in Washington, D.C. for internet marketers. It was called the Underground Online Seminar by a guy named Yannick Silver. This is 2009, so 13 years ago. And they were it was $3,500 a ticket. I have 30 cents, I can't afford to go, but they're giving away scholarships to young entrepreneurs if you apply. And so I applied. There was 10 winners. And I didn't get one of the scholarships. And so I'm like, crap. But a week before the event, I get a phone call from the event coordinator and she's like, hey, you weren't one of the winners. Sorry. but I do have some good news. Number 10, she's from Pakistan and her government will not allow her to come to the United States. You were number 11. Do you want the spot? And I'm like, I'll be on a plane immediately. Like I'll find a way. And so I go to this event and I met some people who were online millionaires already in 2009, and they were nice and they were friendly and they took me under their wing and they showed me just a couple things that I could do with my website, just a couple tweaks. And so I took those back to Michigan State, locked myself in my dorm room for another month, implementing what they taught me. And when I came out, I was making 20 grand a month for my dorm room at 20 years old.
What was the time frame from when you showed up to the event to when 20 grand started showing up or appearing in your bank account?
About a month.
Wow. And this is way back in 2009 when you had to do like tons of stuff manually, right?
Yeah.
You don't have Clickfunnels yet. You don't have like Kajabi and all these other tools. What were you doing? Was it like WordPress that you're using? Some kind of plugin for WordPress?
Yep. It was WordPress. It was ClickBank. And it was Aweber. Those were the tools I was using.
Yeah, that's it. Gosh, those are the good old days. And one thing that stands out to me here is the first thing you did was you got into a community of people who were doing what you wanted to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we met in another community as people were making a lot more than 20,000 a month there. But there's this pattern I'm seeing as I'm interviewing a lot of people get into communities. And when you have access to people, number one, who are teaching what you want to learn, and around other people who have accomplished what you want to learn or they've already achieved it, that seems to cause like a quantum leap for where you were, from where you were to that path where you want to be.
Completely. I have a thing I call environmental exposure, and I think it's a law. So I've just seen it, observed it so many times, where it's like when you get exposed to someone who's doing what you want to do, and it's not on a computer, but it's in person, and it's a multi-sensory experience. You see them, you shake their hand, you can smell them, you can like feel them. It becomes real in a way that seeing them on the internet doesn't. If I see some guy who's a billionaire telling me I can do it on YouTube, it doesn't have the same effect than if I'm sitting across from him at a cafe and he tells me I can do it. It makes such a difference. And so, the pandemic was really tough because it robbed people of that experience for a couple of years. And now that people are able to travel again, I think people should be like doubling down on that kind of stuff to make up, especially for lost time.
Yeah, I think I get why people say they need to move to, Silicon Valley if they have a tech startup. They need to move to LA if they want to be an actor, right? And they need to move to New York if they want to get into finance. It's like, just like you said, getting in front of the real people like that and surrounding yourself with literally a whole city of people like that. And for, I guess online entrepreneurs, it's these conferences mostly. Maybe we're talking about San Diego and recently Puerto Rico too. That might be the next place to go where you're going to run into these guys. So back to you. Sorry for the interruption. So you're a month in, you're making, like 20 grand. What was your next step after that?
It wasn't a good step. I took the money and I bought a car. That was what I did. Spent all of it on a car. I got a convertible, and I drove around Michigan State and I blasted Rick Ross as loud as I could because I was 20 and insecure and I needed everyone to know that I was a boss now. And so one day, a couple weeks after that, I drove to class. And as I parked my convertible, my professor parked next to me and she was in a rust bucket. And we both got out at the same time. I looked at her, she looked at me, she kind of made a face. And not that I'm better than her because I had a convertible and she didn't. It was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I don't think this is right for me. And so I got back in the car and I dropped out. And a few months later, I moved to San Diego. It's funny that you just mentioned that, to keep growing my business.
Okay, very cool. And so you just dropped out, and there was no gap year or anything. It's like, I'm out, I'm done. Was it the image of seeing her as your potential future? If we continue in this trajectory, then you're going to be here. So you got to drop out now.
Yeah, it was in part that. It was like, I'm 20 years old. I think I'm hot shit. And I'm like, the 20-year-old me was like, you have nothing to teach me. I'm not going to pay for this anymore. And I remember when I went to drop out, you have to go to your guidance counselor at school to tell them, and they have to, put their stamp of approval on it. They don't just let you go. And so I remember telling the guidance counselor, and she was like, you have 12 credits left to graduate. Like 12, it's like 3 classes. Like, you should just do it. And I refused. I was like, I'm not going to do this. She thought I was freaking insane, which I probably was, but it did end up working out.
Well, you said buying a car was a mistake, but if Instagram was run way back then, you could have probably, impressed a few more people, made a few more sales if it existed, right?
Oh, probably, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that 20-year-old in a Corvette. Was it a Corvette you said he had?
It was an Audi.
Oh, it was an Audi. Okay, sorry. Convertible Audi. Nice. I'd feel like hot shit too if I was driving. What color was that? Just so I can get the image in my head.
Totally. It was beige exterior and beige leather interior.
Oh, I was expecting red. Yeah.
No, I've never had a red car.
Okay. I think I follow. So we dropped out San Diego. What goes on there?
Yeah. So I keep growing my basketball thing.
But by this time, is it like on autopilot now where people are dropping in and buying and you don't have to like actively promote it like crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working, but it's not a lot. It's maybe an hour or two a day, honestly, to keep that going. But at 20, 21 years old, making that kind of money, I thought I was rich. I wasn't, but I thought I was. And so I was demotivated to keep making more. I kind of hit my set point. And so I had a lot of free time, young kid, and in California. And recently in California, this plant that was green and psychedelic and newly legal had just been made, legal in California. And so I got a card for that when this was like a new thing. And I started smoking a lot of weed basically, and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And within about a year and a half, all the money I'd made was basically gone. I'd smoked most of it up and just partied it away. And so at 23, I had to leave San Diego and move back home to my mom's basement in Michigan, where I was from, because I had literally no money. And so when I was down there, I was really hard on myself. I still kind of am. But I got very clear on like what mistakes did I make. And the number one mistake I thought I made was I stopped being an expert at the thing that I was supposed to be an expert at. I'm teaching people how to play basketball, how to get recruited to play college basketball. And that's what I'd done. But the last year or so in San Diego, I wasn't doing that. I was just hanging out, partying, had this online thing. And I always felt that came through in my emails and my sales letters and my videos and my content. And so when I was in my mom's basement, I was like, whatever I do next, I need to walk. I need to eat what practice what I preach, eat my own cooking. Like I have to do that. And so the other skill I had was dating. Like at Michigan State University, when I was there doing the basketball thing on the side, I also like helped guys like talk to girls. It was something I'd struggled with a lot.
So just because you enjoyed it, like, dude, I feel bad for you. Like, where did that idea come from? Did you just approach guys, or did you have a friend approach you and say, hey, dude, can you help me? I really want to score in this girl. Can you help me?
So what happened was I was a virgin until I was 20. I didn't have a girlfriend. I never kissed a girl till I was 20. All my friends had, they'd been doing other things. But growing up, I played basketball and I was afraid of girls. And so when I started making money, I was like, well, you got to check all the boxes. If you're a cool dude, you make money and you get girls. You're supposed to do both. And I was only doing one. And so I started learning like pickup, in that whole community, and learning how it works and how to talk to girls. And it was nice because what I learned at pickup applied to my marketing, and what I learned at my marketing applied to my pickup. And so I got better at both. I got good at pickup really quick, so much so that dudes in other frats would come to me and be like, don't talk to her. She's one of our, like, that's our sorority. You shouldn't talk to that girl, and she'd be like, well, I want to talk to him. And it was like, it was kind of a whole thing. And one very enterprising, observant frat member named Nick was like, you should just teach us what you're doing, because we all see it. We don't know what you're doing though, but like, teach us. And so before frat parties at certain frats, I would have like a little whiteboard and I would teach the guys like how to talk to the girls tonight when they come here for the party. And they'd give me like $25. And that was kind of where that started.
So think of the one that you'd give a total beginner. This guy is so green. Like, I need to give him something that is so stupid easy. And then like, what's that line you're going to give him?
It was more like opening wasn't a big thing that we focused on, because what I always taught was social circle. And so my whole thing was, if you're a guy and you have to go cold approach a girl, you're doing it wrong. What you should be doing is engineering some type of social circle so that you get introduced to her, right? The same way if you're doing affiliate recruiting, for instance, emailing someone cold is not going to go over nearly as well as if intermediate party introduces the both of you. So my whole thing was like, get introduced. And then once you start talking to her, one of my favorite things, trying to think which way to go here, is something called the snapback cold read. Was something that we used a lot. So a cold read, people know, you seem like this kind of girl or that kind of girl, right? You seem like a nurse, you seem like a teacher. It's a better way to engage a conversation than to say, what do you do? Or what's your major? Or something like that. Because then you kind of get into interview mode, and it's better, like whatever question you're going to ask, like where are you from? Change it to a statement and just guess and let her tell you you're wrong or right. So instead of saying, where are you from? Say, you're from San Diego, aren't you? And then it becomes a much more interesting conversation. She wants to know why you thought that, And then a snapback cold read was to take it further, which is where you would cold read her in such a way that she's like, I'm not a that, I'm the complete opposite of that. And that's what you wanted. So for instance, once you were vibing with a girl, you might say something like, I don't know why, but I get this vibe about you that you're like the play it safe girl in all your friends, aren't you? Like when they want to go do things, like you're like everyone, yeah, just like play it safe. Like let's not try anything crazy. Let's just play it safe. And then she spends the rest of the night, of course, trying to prove to you that she is not.
Dude, this is so much about marketing and it's about sales copy, right? And I'm going to see if I can incorporate that into video. So let's give it a shot. If you're the type of guy who's never going to shoot a video and never hire a professional, and you're going to be editing for 30 hours a week because you're a control freak, you got to do it yourself, and then you get them to think, no, I'm not, I need to hire someone. I get it. This is gold. This is gold. I didn't know we are going to go down this path, but this is absolute gold. That's awesome. So if I could use some version of this to, let's say, for example, I wanted to get Barack Obama or Elon Musk or Bill Gates onto this podcast, it would be about social circles, right? I got to get into some pretty high social circles to reach those kind of people?
100%. There's no way. I mean, I don't want to say there's no way. It's extremely unlikely you're going to get one of those guys cold. Unless sometimes it happens. Like there's stories of people who get replies from Jeff Bezos because they email Jeff at Amazon.com and that's his email and he checks it sometimes. But
did you know I flew Air Force One with the active president?
You did?
You know that, right?
No, I did not know that. How did that happen?
Yeah, I was making a documentary where the president was inaugurating a new airline company. So that's the hook. So the details are the country was Uganda and the president was a dude named Museveni. So pretty cool, but not exactly the US president. So it's back to you. This is your story. We kind of went to a little side pocket there. I think it was super valuable, actually. I think the listeners are going to have learned a thing or two about how to connect with their customers and clients. Now, was there something else between then and now? Like, was there another side venture?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm in my mom's basement. I was like, I have to be an expert. And so I started really focusing on the dating stuff and really making myself into an expert, taking guys out in person, and then eventually productizing what I knew into courses. And so within a 9-month period of hit mom's basement, 9 months later, I had become a millionaire at 24 years old, just with the dating courses. And so that became my main thing in my business for the next 5 years. And that was like a great experience in my 20s.
So the first thing you did, that was getting you like $20,000 a month. And then you jumped into this online dating and training stuff. And how much was that making for you?
Yes. So at the beginning, I was going out 12 times a week. So I'd go out during the day, take a break, and then go out at night. And then eventually it was just 6 nights a week I would go out.
So if the town is pretty small, you're going to get people are going to start spotting you really fast as you come if it's like 12 times a week.
Totally. Well, after a couple months, when I started making a little bit of money enough to leave my mom's basement, I moved back to LA. And so I was doing this in LA.
Yeah. So like when you meet people, you don't say, you want to come back to my mom's basement with me? Was that everything? Like, how am I going to get around that?
I could see it being funny. A guy's like, yeah, I got a white van. I have some candy in my white van. Let's go back to my mom's house as a joke.
Dude, I swear, if you made a course like for dudes, how to pick up girls, even if you're living in your mom's basement, that would sell for all the guys who are living in their mom's basement.
It would sell, but I think your back end would suffer because you're not attracting very good customers in the front.
Yeah, no, people in their mom's basement. That's funny. So I'm assuming you got that fixed at some point because you're trying to live the lifestyle, right? You got to walk the walk, talk the talk kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like I said, within a couple of months, I'd moved to Los Angeles, and that's where I was doing most of this. And then as the money started coming in, I just started really enjoying life. And so I'd go to Vegas all the time, partied a ton, made some great memories, and it was awesome. And I did that until I was about 28 years old. And at that point, I'd been in a relationship for a few years, very happy with my girlfriend. I'm still with her now, Natalie. And I wasn't as into the dating scene as I used to be. And so the same thing happened with basketball, where I'm like, I'm not going out every night like I used to. And I don't feel it's right to keep coaching and teaching people something that I'm not doing every day myself as well. And so I knew it was time to close up shop in the dating thing. And the next thing, I was like, well, what am I doing every day that I am good at? And well, I'm doing the dating thing, but I'm also marketing every day online and selling courses and doing that kind of thing. And so my next thing was to start teaching people how to start making money online. And that's what I did the last 4 years until about 6 months ago when I retired from that as well.
So all the way throughout this journey, at what point did you start creating content about yourself where you're in front of the camera and it's whether it's social media or just straight up paid ads or something like that? When did that come into play?
The very first year.
Wait, all the way for which business? For basketball?
For basketball.
So from the beginning, you're on video?
I was on video from the beginning. I never took them down. They're still on YouTube and people can go find them if they want. They're all still there.
So this was 2007, you said, like at the very beginning?
2009.
I mean, YouTube started in 2004. So this is really early days YouTube, right?
I think it was YouTube that kind of got me going at the beginning. I was like, because there wasn't, I mean, Facebook was around, but it looked very different than it does today. It was just, a wall. People had walls. That was the thing back then. There was no Instagram. Twitter was in its infancy. There was no LinkedIn, at least that I knew about. There was no TikTok, but there was YouTube. And it looked like if I can get videos ranking on YouTube, then I'd be able to get a lot of free traffic. And so that was my goal, was free traffic through video. The other thing I think I just picked up on, fortunately, at the beginning was if I write a sales letter or an email, it's going to take me a long time to do that at a high level of quality that I feel good about. But I can do a video in 5 minutes and I can do 20 videos in 2 hours. And so I can create incredibly fast if I get good on camera, where I can do everything in one take eventually just through repetition and get good at it like any other skill. And so I just realized that it would become an incredibly high leverage skill for me if I could just speak eloquently, articulately, persuasively on camera for the rest of my life. I just got a hit that like video is not going anywhere. It's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I need to be good at the skill, and I need to be in front of a camera a lot. That was it.
Did you face any challenges when you first started figuring out how to like upload and edit and all that kind of stuff? Tell me about those. Because I think a lot of people, for them, the biggest question is what camera should I get? What light should I get? Anything, like software. What I always tell people is that's the wrong question. The right question is how can you get so damn good at storytelling that you can use your phone, make money, and then reward yourself with that money to get yourself a fancy camera if that's what you really want. But to tell you the truth, you don't really need it. That's what I tell people. But for you, tell me about your experience overcoming challenges. What was the biggest obstacle for you getting your first videos out there? I want to remind the listeners that's 2009, by the way, guys.
I was using a $99 flip cam from Best Buy.
Nice. So tell me, what was your thought process? Why was it important for you to be on video, and why did you choose that? Did you just see somebody else doing it? Did you learn from a course, or did you just know intuitively that if people see it, they'll believe it?
Yeah. So I will answer that question. I just want to tag on to what you were saying. Like, I personally have sold millions of dollars of courses that were made on my iPhone. So if anyone thinks it's about equipment, they're using equipment as an excuse for fear is probably what it is. But anyways, my thing was, I remember the first couple of videos I made, I watch them and I'm, my voice doesn't sound like that. Oh, wait, it does sound like that. Getting over that. That was one of the first one. Another one, I was like, wait, is my nose crooked? What's going on there? I didn't know that about myself. Right. And so getting over like the personal insecurities, those were like the initial things. And then next came the negative comments, which are inevitable if anyone is posting content online, and learning how to deal with that kind of stuff and power through regardless if that's coming in or not. And then I feel like those were the main things. Learning how to edit my own videos. Honestly, like iMovie made it so easy that it's not hard to do. And then I remember in 2011, Andy Jenkins came out with this course called Video Boss. I don't know if you remember that.
I bought it too. I bought the second part too. It's called Even Bossier. So it's like Video Boss, Even Bossier. That was my playbook for video marketing. Andy Jenkins. He got me started for sure when it comes to applying it.
Yeah, and I never even bought the course. I just went through the pre-launch videos, and he just
did the Jeff Walker product launch formula style, right? 4 videos, and he just played a slide deck.
Yes, exactly. It was brilliant. And getting just the simple framework. That was the first video framework I'd ever seen. Like, oh, you lead with this, you say something like this, and then here's the body of the video, and then here's how you end it. Just getting some structure around the videos got me really excited about making videos. I felt confident about what I was doing at that point. And then from that point on, I was just video. The last block I would say I had about video was when I started dating coaching. I was super embarrassed for my family to know what I was doing. I didn't want my mom or my sister to know, because when I'm doing it in person, no one knows. But if I'm putting it on YouTube, I was like, I'm not going on YouTube unless I'm speaking my mind and telling what I truly believe. And I didn't feel comfortable doing that at first. And it took a friend to have like a hard conversation with me to be like, dude, you're really good at this. And if you don't make videos about this, not only will I be angry, but you are holding back like really good stuff from a lot of people. And so you need to just shut the fuck up and make videos. And I started making videos after that.
Among your students, do you see, people who are making courses and making money with some kind of online education? Do you see that same pattern too? Or nowadays, is it different? Am I just too old and I feel like there's a process? Is there some truth in that you're seeing in your own students?
I think there's total truth to that. The students and the clients that I work with who are succeeding, when they come to me, selling their course, whatever course it is that they're currently marketing, is not the first thing that they've ever done. Most people, some people like shit on the biz op space and make money online and get started, but it captures people's imaginations and it gets them going in the beginning. And so even if that's not how they end up making money, it was the catalyst that propelled them forward to start doing it. And so they try something like that and it doesn't work, and that's fine. And they get some scar tissue, but they also acquire some skills and some lessons. And they try the next thing and the next thing. And then that third or fourth one, they're able to put into practice all the skills that they picked up along the way. And that third or fourth one, that's the hit, and then to everyone else, they're like, where did this person come from? They came out of nowhere. It's so easy for them. And what they didn't see is, the bloodied path lying behind them that they had to crawl through to get there.
Yeah, it's super true. Well, look, I love the story that you shared so far, the background story, because everything that people see of you, especially the Instagram version, people see that you're doing very well and other people are doing very well for themselves. But when we hear the story behind it, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Now I can feel I can get there because, everybody starts at zero, right? Except for Paris Hilton. But what I'd love to jump into is, what you said earlier that you've retired from your business a few months ago. But let's rewind to you right before that. While it was working, while you're still completing it, what were some of the highlights around that? Maybe a video that did super well, maybe, a bunch of leads or money or something maybe that didn't go well.
Well, so we had a really unique system in how we used organic content to drive leads and make sales. And so I'll try and just overview that system. And what I say here is not bragging. I just want everyone to know what it produced so they have an idea of context. This system generated 14,044 course sales at $1,000 a piece. And it was all on Instagram. There was no funnel. There was no landing page. It was all happened within the platform. People never had to leave the actual social media platform that they were on. And so what we did is I call it customer finance growth. And so I have 2.4 million followers on Instagram right now. And I paid for most of those followers. But the reality is they actually paid to follow me. And so what I did is I worked with an agency that did Instagram growth. And I would pay them anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a month to grow the account at a rate of about 33 cents per follower. So I give them 40 grand and I'm going to get roughly 120,000 followers over the next month. Not super targeted because it's hard to do targeted follower growth on Instagram, but country specific, you can kind of get like English speaking countries, that kind of thing. Once they would start following me, we posted a lot of content to nurture those leads and get, increase the know, like, trust factors. On Instagram, I think our peak, we were posting 5 feed posts a day, whether it was a reel or IGTV or video or picture or carousel or whatever it was. And then most of those videos would have a call to action at the end of them that said, hey, I'm doing this new case study. Like Taki would teach at 5130, doing this new case study. I'm looking for X amount of people who want to earn an extra 3 to 4 grand per month from home, typing messages on their phone. So if you're interested, message me the word home right now, and then me or my team will message you back with all the details. And so we'd have leads messaging us this keyword on Instagram. At our peak, we were doing roughly 1,800 leads a day messaging us. Inside that Instagram DM, we had at our peak 11 full-time chatters all day long, chat closing people for the stuff right in there. That was the system. And so what would happen is they'd chat, we convert a certain amount to a course, and then a percentage of that revenue would go right back into next month's growth. And so, most people when they do paid ads, you have a funnel, you make ROAS, you're positive, that's wonderful. One second, I'm gonna close this. Close that window. You do paid ads, you have a funnel, it makes money, that's great. But at the end of the day, you have a customer list, and that's awesome, but you don't have anything else to show for it. And you probably don't have a brand to show for it. The way that we did it is not only did I get all the paid ad good stuff, but I had millions of followers at the end of it also. And so,
so were you getting like a ton of emails at the point, or was it just like followers? Like, were those leads only existing on Instagram?
So, Ken, this is one of my greatest mistakes in my life that I've ever made. we brought in that 18-month period, over 1 million leads on Instagram, and we didn't start collecting their emails until the very end. And so that was a conversation I had with Kevin Hutto, and he was like, I'm not going to be your friend unless you start collecting their emails. Like, what are you doing? And my whole thought was like, well, I don't want to interrupt the flow, like the sales flow. Like, it's working. I don't want to ask for their email. What if they don't? And he was like, trust me, it won't matter. And it didn't matter at all. And so that was painful. And I won't make that mistake again.
There's somebody else in the fitness space who I'm about to interview. He's on my schedule, actually. And I know part of his story is he is similar to you. He grew tons of people on his account on Instagram, and then he got permanently shut down overnight. He lost like everything. It's gone, right? And with email, nowadays, if you have email, it's the only thing you actually own is people's email addresses. You can download it, you can put it in a spreadsheet, you can print it out, you can tattoo it on your arm. You own it. Followers on somebody else's platform like Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you absolutely do not own it. And that's something a lot of marketers just need to understand. And I only recently started collecting emails too, because so super recently. So I've got a little tiny baby list growing right now. And if you're listening, guys, I think Jason, you're like the fourth person who's told me so far, get into emails. Don't let shiny objects. I know they're fun, but all these social media platforms, like all the new trends, they're fun, but emails are OG and they always will be. For now, phone numbers too. Get phone numbers and emails.
Yeah, get emails, get phone numbers. My whole strategy going forward is everything leads back to the email list now. So all my content, no matter what platform, instead of going for a sale on those platforms, it's all just going to be driving to an email list where, in an email list, you can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. There's no compliance issues. There's no shadow banning. There's none of those things. And like you said, you own it.
So I kind of interrupted your flow that you're talking about, what you're doing, and then the mistakes you made not collecting emails. Was there another part of the story you're going into?
So you asked about like content and how it related to that whole system. So I wanted to lay down the system so that people can have some context around the content. And so we had a specific piece of content, a video piece of content that outperformed everything else by a mile. And what it was a video of me. I go on the street to random people and I say, hey, you want to make $50 in 30 seconds? And 9 out of 10 say no.
Yeah, I saw those. I thought it was so brilliant. Walk us through that for those who may have not seen those ads yet.
Yeah. So I walk up to them and I say $50, 30 seconds. Most people rejected me and say no, because they think I'm crazy. And then someone says yes. And I show them one little trick to make money very quickly on their phone. And they do it. And I give them $50, because they made that money. And then at the end of the video, it's like, hey, if you want to learn how to do this too, just message me this word. And we did that once as a test. And it did so well that we were like, we need to do this everywhere. And so I started traveling the country. I went to, I think, like 8 or 9 cities where we just did these videos with people randomly on the street. And we made a whole series out of it. We call it like man on the street type videos. And the reason I think it works so well is because it's a dramatic demonstration. And I think there's no better type of sales focused video than a demonstration. And so like something I teach all my clients now is if you're using video to market, which all of you should be, you need to figure out what your scalable demonstration is going to be, meaning something that demonstrates your expertise or the result of your product, or just, it could be a small thing. Like my whole course about how to make money online, there's a lot of stuff involved. Typing the messages was just a tiny part, but I knew that one part would play well on video. So let's just, zoom in and focus on that. So you need to figure out what that thing is. And then once it should be repeatable. I could go anywhere in the world, hand someone my phone. I literally did. I did it in Bali. I did it in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. You started doing it in countries where people are probably making, $20 a day or maybe even only $10 a day. And yes, random people on the street, street vendors and stuff. And that's when I started really paying attention. Was like, all right, I pretty much know what's on the script because, we go to the same kind of masterminds. But just the fact that you demonstrate it like that was really difficult to argue with. And some people will argue about anything, but that was very convincing.
Oh, of course. They can argue about anything. But yeah, it's like Claude Hopkins, this great copywriter, he said that dramatic demonstration is worth 1,000 good arguments. And he's right. And so if you just need to find a way to demonstrate it. And then once you figure out how to demonstrate it on camera, you need to figure out a way to raise the stakes because that makes it more interesting for people. So, like the example that I always give is, if there's a tightrope 1 foot off the ground and I walk across it, are you impressed? No. But if it's 1,000 feet off the ground, are you impressed now? Yeah. Well, all I did was raise the stakes. And for us in that video, it's, is this person going to succeed at making money or not? Like, we would post some videos sometimes where the person did not make money, because that happens sometimes. And we wanted to show people that this doesn't work every time. And so you got to keep watching all of them to see how this person, how it's going to turn out for them.
So I'm curious, what was your content creation process like? Because if you're putting out as much content as you were, and that's a lot of time, right? In your day, do you have any hacks around how to come up with the ideas, how to collaborate with a team, how to do the editing and repurposing within your team? Could you walk us through that bit of that?
Yeah, I have a couple things we figured out that I can share that I think will be super useful for everybody. So number one is I'm a lifestyle guy. I want a lifestyle business, which means I need to figure out what about my life to look like first, and then I'm going to build my business around that second. And what I knew is I didn't want to sit in front of a camera constantly by myself or with one videographer and just talking to a camera. That's just not what I want to do. It's not enjoyable for me. But I knew I needed to produce a lot of content. So how do you do that? And so my solution was to throw an event every month, and I called it D-Day or Download Day. And I invited customers to it. I did them all across America. They're completely free. There's no upsell. There's no pitch. It was just an 8-hour event where you came and you would ask me questions and I would answer them. And it was that for 8 hours. I just did it one day at a time. But what would happen is my video team would take those 8 hours of content and they would clip that out to become our content for the rest of the month. So my entire investment was 1 day a month of video time, and that covered us for the rest of the month. And it also made for really good content, because we always found that we call it interaction content, but when it's you talking with someone else or an audience member or something like that, it usually plays better. And so all of this was interaction content. And it also, there's good positioning. I'm on stage, they're in the audience. It's really good for your brand. It checked all the boxes. And that was how we did it for the entire time.
I did not think of that because, with us, we have like 20 editors across the board from multiple clients. So it's kind of hard because every client's at a different stage. But now I'm building my own personal brand. And I've got a full-time editor to bring on. I'm bringing on a second one, actually. But going back to the previous thing we're talking about, one of the things that we did, this might be helpful to you, because I come from like a videography background, and we were used to working on large sets with a big team and everything. And the person in front of the camera, he hands off this video footage to the editor, and you expect them to, to understand, pretty much read your mind about how you want it done. And they get this video footage and they want you to say and tell you exactly how to edit it, where are the timestamps. And you, as the talent, are thinking, I don't have time for that. And what's really going on is you're expecting them to do a director's job, and they're expecting you to be the director. But what both of you don't realize is that with this little arrangement, with you being the talent and they being the editor, the director's missing. It doesn't exist, that role. And that's why there's this vicious cycle from hell where you go back and forth. And eventually, because you're exhausted from doing revisions, you settle for something that's like 60% level of what you're happy with, because you just don't have the time or the energy. And the way we solve that in our agency is we have somebody in the company who grew up in the same culture as a client. And if you're from New York in the US, it's probably going to be somebody who understands that culture and not somebody outsourced or even from like UK or Australia. We don't want that. Somebody who understands the lingo and the vibe. And the editors don't have to get access into the editors aren't even allowed to see the video until the content curator or the director role transcribes everything. And they're going to go highlight everything for all the different things, the long form, the medium form, the short forms like TikTok. And they write out the titles for every single one of those. For the long form videos, they pretty much highlight everything that needs to go into a quote card, short form, every title on the screen. Then they hand it to the video editor. The editor executes just the motion graphics, the colors, I mean sound effects. They get it back to the content curator, and the content curator is going to judge. They're going to have to think, did the editor execute my vision of what I believe is going to help the client the most? If it's a yes, we hand it back to the client. If it's a no, we send it to the editor again with revisions. And this role in between has taken our revisions from like 1 out of 4 videos had revisions. So now it's like 1 out of 30. And when the clients see it, most of the time they're just going to say, yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping for. And it's, if you get that one person there, you can hire video editors who are really, really happy to get paid a wage that, depending on where they're living, you're raising their standard of living from like $1,000 a month. And to them, it would be like double their regular income. Whereas in the States, what are you paying? $5,000 or $6,000 a month for a video editor? And it's like they understand the culture, so you might need them. But we've been able to separate those roles and scale because of this other role in there. So I wanted to share that with you because I thought it might be interesting to you if you want to scale up your content operations and stuff like that.
Totally. Yeah. And that's a problem. Like, At our peak, we had 6 editors on staff. And so there was 4 strong ones, and then the other 2 we kept kind of hiring and firing and looking for the right ones. But every time we brought someone on new, that was the thing I'm always trying to figure out is how can I expedite this person's learning process of marketing and psychology? Because if I get a video editor who understands marketing, that's gold. That's a unicorn. Those don't exist. So when you find one, you got to hold on to it nice and tight. So that was a big thing. The other thing I'll just share with you that I think anyone has video editors would be super useful is to turn your video editors into salespeople. And what I mean by that is we had 6 editors, and they're all producing content for Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and other places. And so what we did is we would create a views contest at the start of every month. So a sales contest, but instead of sales, it's views. And each of the editors would have a personal goal of how many views their video should get that month. Yeah. And then we put it up on a dashboard so they each had their own kind of progress bar towards their goal. And they're running their own race, but they're running it against each other to see who can reach their target first. And whoever hit it first in that month would get X prize, second place gets the other prize, and so on. And that took their performance to I would say a 20% boost across the board.
Hey, look, we're almost at the end here, and I want to respect your time. What advice do you have for somebody who's got a business? Let's say they're not at $1 million yet, but for some reason, the social media is not working, right? They've made some stuff, it's not taken off, or maybe they haven't even started with producing content for themselves yet. How do you recommend people like that get started? What are some baby steps for this? And let's assume they've already got a business, they're making some money, but they want to do better, and they see other people doing really well, especially on social media.
Yeah. They need to get comfortable just being on video in front of a camera. If someone's been doing it in their business for 20 years, they're probably really good at talking with clients and customers, and they got their rap down, and I could wake them up at 3 a.m. and they would be able to talk to a client. But I could put a camera in front of them at 3 p.m. and they go blank, and people have these blocks around that once the little red light is on, they kind of transform into something else. And so just through exposure therapy and just doing it a lot, I think is the fastest way to get by it. And so they need to just start making videos and lower your expectations of how good the videos should be. Like you should assume your first 100 are going to suck, and that's totally fine. Everyone goes through that. If you need inspiration, go look at Gary Vee's very first video ever from Wine Library TV. He's a completely different person. He doesn't suck, but he's not very good at all. And so everyone sucks at the beginning, but just get started. And remember long term that being good on camera is a skill like any other skill. And the way you get better at a skill is through repetition. And so to me, volume wins. The person who's just going to make the most videos at the end of the day, 5 or 10 years from now, is going to be the one who's the best at communicating on camera. The other thing I would say is you're not too late, but you need to get started. I know so many people who are business owners, and it's how long have you been thinking about doing videos online? A year, 2 years, 5 years. They've been putting it off forever, and it's shit or get off the pot. Either you're gonna do this or not. And so I don't care whichever way you go, but I think obviously, my personal story, there's a huge advantage of being on video and getting good on video, and I would say just get started.
Thanks for that. And at what stage do you think let's say somebody started making some video, at what stage do you think they should hire a team or outsource that to, an agency like mine to start editing for them instead of, sitting down and editing all their own videos?
I think if they've never done video before, at all, I would say just do 30 all selfie style yourself, just to get the feel for it and get the heebie-jeebies out of the way so you get a little more comfortable with it. Once you're there, then you need to decide, is this going to be something you're going to focus on, you're going to hire for, you're going to build a team, you're going to manage a team, you're going to learn certain tech and stuff to build your own in-house video team. And if you're going to do that, that's rare, but fine, go for it. If you're not going to do that and you are serious about this, then I think you do need to go to an agency like yours or whatever, is the right fit for them. Because in my experience, when someone works with a really talented video agency and they start doing it, after the first shoot, they're breathe this huge sigh of relief, and they're so that's how it's done, and there's this huge learning curve that they get to shortcut as well. And their videos look really good too.
Thanks again for that. And if somebody wants to learn from you, because I feel like you've shared a ton of things that people are going to find attractive, and the fact that they listened all the way to the end means that obviously this is interesting for them. how can people find ways to work with you or to pay you to help them? What's the best way for people to find you?
Totally. Yeah. So we're picking back up on IG. So best place to reach me is on Instagram. It is me personally replying. It's not my team anymore. So just shoot me a message. Tell me you saw me on the podcast if you're interested. Like I said, I'm really trying to focus on working with just existing course sellers who want to sell more courses. I'm working on a book, and so I want to like collect some really cool case studies for that book. So if that's you, you should hit me up and we can chat.
All right, let's wrap this up, guys. I hope you enjoyed this chat I had with Jason Capital. All the links to everything we mentioned is going to be down in the YouTube description or the podcast show notes if you're listening on your headphones. And I really encourage you guys to go check him out. He's a really cool guy. And, I think that me being able to have these conversations one-on-one with people like him is my reward. But I'd like to ask you to do something, please, just so I know if this is continuing to be interesting to you. Just rate the show. Did you like it? Put a comment down below. Share it with somebody else who you think might appreciate it. And that's all I ask in return for producing these. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next episode.